absolute power. How do you get it? How do you control it? There is one man throughout history who is the most infamous for this, controlling fear, upholding terror, and censoring the truth. In the words of Terry Deary, history can be horrible, and this topic is more than evident of that. The act of turning a nation from a golden age of prosperity and culture into a fascist dictatorship that led up to the events of the Second World War. Over the course of these videos, we'll be finding out how Germany ended up in the way it did. Hi, I'm That One Nerd, and welcome to this video. So, to understand later events, we're going to have to go quite a way back. From 1888 up until 1918, Germany was under rule of Kaiser Wilhelm II, who acted as the king, cousin of George V of England and grandson to the late Queen Victoria. When Wilhelm became Kaiser at the age of 29, Britain was the most powerful country in the world, holding the largest empire and the most powerful navy at her disposal. The British Navy was twice the size of her two closest rivals combined. Wilhelm dreamed of making Germany as great as Britain, so he began building up industries through methods of industrialization. This movement was supported heavily by the rich businessmen of the country. The Kaiser's dreams finally became true in 1913, when the steel and iron industries produced more than Britain, and German companies dominated the electrical trade in Europe. The Kaiser had spent most of his youth in the military, which resulted in his eager and championed militarism, which he thought was the key to a successful country. He was keen to uphold a strong army and build a large navy which rivaled Britain's. He did this through following a policy called Weltpolitik, which means world policy, and believed that Germany should have its place in worldwide affairs and become a world power, militaristically and economically. Wilhelm became involved with other European powers in the naval and arms race. One of his main aims was to compete with the British Navy. He did this by introducing naval laws 1898, 1900, 1906, 1908, and finally 1912 to build up his navy. This pressured Great Britain and made it feel threatened by their sudden increase in advancement and continued to grow her navy. This race would result in one creating a powerful battleship, and then the other creating a more powerful battleship. This continued into building up their navies in preparation for war. As well as this, the Kaiser wanted to grow the size of the German army, and introduced compulsory conscription in 1913. With the Kaiser's new army and navy at her disposal, nothing could stop him now, right? Right? The success of the new German industries made many landowners and businesses and factory owners very rich. These people, along with noble army officers, were a powerful force in Germany at this time and had much influence on the Kaiser and his decisions. They were keen to preserve their positions in influence and hierarchy. But things were changing. Many workers in the new factories were unhappy with the success of the industries due to low wages and poor working conditions. As well as this, food was expensive, which resulted in more and more workers joining trade unions to organise strikes in hope to force the Kaiser, his advisors and members of the Reichstag to increase pay rates and working conditions. The Reichstag is the German parliament and a very important factor in this unit of history. For the Kaiser to pass any laws, it would need to be approved by a majority of the Reichstag, elected by the people to represent them. Without a majority approval, the law would be disregarded and sent back to the Kaiser, who would either tweak it and send it back or disregard the law for good. Wilhelm saw this as a problem and wished to control the political system and the Reichstag. This was opposed by the Social Democratic Party, or SPD, who were a left-wing political party hoping that the Kaiser's power and wealth would be shared among the people. They promised better pay and working conditions, which appealed to the public, and the population of the SPD increased dramatically. In 1913, around 1 out of 3 Germans voted for the SPD at this time. Of course, the Kaiser and his advisors saw this rise in socialism as a major problem for his plan of control. However, this was short-lived because of the start of the Great War in 1914. The next 4 years of the war do not need to be learnt for GCSE, but if you want me to do any videos on the Great War, please feel free to request in the comments. 4 years later, in 1918, as the Second Reich of the German Empire collapsed, the Allies were closing in on Berlin. The Kaiser abdicated and fled Germany for the Netherlands on the 9th of November. He left the country's control in the hands of Friedrich Ebert, the leader of the SPD, Germany's largest political party at the time. Ebert was the leader of a new republic set up in the German city of Weimar due to the ruckus being caused in Berlin. He formed a new democratic Germany with such an inspirational name it is sure to leave you speechless. Weimar Republic. On the 11th of November 1918, Germany surrendered from the war. After 4 brutal years and over 2 million German corpses later, the First World War was over. But how did Germany become the way it did 20 years later? Find out next episode about the new government and the struggles that many face which turned them towards parties such as the Nazis. Thanks for watching. See you next episode.